The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program, and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Hello, welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it's Friday, and we have our last candidate. We will introduce him momentarily, but I just want to make a quick comment. We've talked to some of our fans and stuff, and they're saying, well, you kind of look freelancing, and that was the intent of our format. No 1 minute answers and 30-second rebuttals.
Oh, 30-second rebuttals.
30-second rebuttals, so you can't get your. We want the candidates to be themselves. They also said, well, you guys are sometimes scathing on city issues. Well, it's not our job in this format. What we wanted to do is present the candidates to you. We are very clear where we stand on every issue on this show, and the reality is, this was done to allow you to get a feel of the candidate, listen to what's important to them. We encourage you to look at their platforms and make an intelligent vote and go vote. So with that, and without further ado, to freelance for the last time before the election Tuesday, it's my great pleasure to introduce Erica Scott-Pacheco. Welcome, Erica.
Thank you. I appreciate this opportunity to be here with you and CJ again.
All right. Well, I mean, as before, we're going to let you you want to make an opening statement if you want to get right to it, if there's anything you want to...
Sure. Again, my name is Erica Scott-Pacheco. I'm for you. I'm for Fall River, and that's why I'm running for mayor on Tuesday. I'm humbly asking for your vote, that you vote yes in the recall, and for me, Erica Scott-Pacheco, because I think all of the candidates, we've all laid out our ideas. I have concrete plans that I've laid out, and I don't believe our city is broken. I think that the system is broken, and that's why I'm going to fight for you. I'm going to fight for your family, whether you're a working family, a senior on a fixed income. I'm asking that you give your vote to me so that together we can fix the system on issues that matter most to you.
Great. And along that line, I want to just touch, and I kind of lead you in. You can go wherever you want. But I think watching the debate last night, one of the most startling things I found was when I believe it was the moderator, when he said the per capita income's $33,000 a year. Yes. And that's subject to who you look at. I've seen it even lower in federal government. We've always cited those statistics. Yeah. It's always been half or less than half of the state average. And I found it rather strange when you put it in the perspective of there are many people that seem to have a disconnect, and they continue to say how much this city has progressed in the last 10 or 15 years. But to me, that proves something that gives me a little different picture. And I know you work in nonprofits, and you deal with the people who are living on this income. And I had a statistic that actually said that we have like 18% living below 21,000, and about 14% living on less than 17,000. Yeah. So, let's not cut it anyway. This city has difficulty, and people really can't. They're having a difficult time, and we need to look at that. So. I'm just going to kind of lead you in. If you want to comment on that, if you want to go somewhere else, it's up to you.
Yeah, so to expand on that, not only do we have a very low average income, but you need to look at the bigger picture, right? So the bigger picture is that 88% of people in our city are low or moderate income. So it's not just that we have some people that are doing well and some people that are really poor, and then that makes the average 33,000 in the middle. The vast majority, 88% of our city, are low or moderate income, which to me says we need to work on building up our middle class, on having good paying jobs, not just jobs. I, as mayor, am not going to focus on bringing in big corporations, giving them tax breaks, and then letting them pay peanuts, right? We've seen that. We've seen what happens, right? Sam's Club, failed economic development. We gave them a tip for 3 years. What happened after 3 years? They closed up, right? They closed up and left. Amazon promised they were going to do jobs averaging $35,000 a year. That promise has not come to fruition. And we also gave them major tax breaks. So we're not generating any revenue to expand our tax base. They're having to go outside of the city to find workers, and it doesn't really, at the end of the day, help people raise their minimum income. We're still having far too many voters that I've spoken with concerned, working 2 and 3 jobs just to pay the bills. We need to focus on good paying jobs to build up our middle class, to keep our kids. We're investing in their education, and so many of them are leaving. If we build up our middle class, we can retain our students who have high quality education, we can grow our tax base, and we can raise that median income in our city.
Well, yeah, that's a very good answer, because as you said, the proportion 88%, but the other factor is that TIFs also put another burden on the residential taxpayer, because
Correct.
that does go into the 2.5 tax base that the tax increases. So that's another issue. And jobs, of course, are always a problem, and it's always an issue about the ability of our citizenry to be trained for these jobs. And I know that we've seen a lot of promises along that line. And do you know, what is your attitude toward what are we going to do to prepare our people? Because we've always been under the philosophy, and we said it on the show many times, that you know, it's about retention too.
Exactly.
You know, that statistic when we were fighting about the debt override for the school, we brought forth figures about that even the people that we do educate don't stay here.
Right.
And this is the crowd. Not only do we have to retain educated people who are college educated, but we need to retain people who are tradesmen, who have salaries, who can contribute to the income. So, I mean, do you have some sort of a base plan that you're going to attempt to try to keep people in this community? Because that's one of the problems we see, our population dropping, and I think it would be without some of the influx of low-income housing and stuff, we would probably be down in the 70,000s at this point in time. At least my opinion. I can't statistically prove that, but I mean, I think it's an important issue, and I will say that you have highlighted the fact that, you know, you are fully cognizant of the fact that this city has a lot of people who are struggling and working hard, and they still can't get ahead. So
right, and then you get trapped in a cycle, and you even get in a cycle sometimes where childcare is so expensive, right, that may even prohibit some people from entering into the labor force, where if your option is minimum wage job and then 80% of your salary goes to paying for childcare, then you actually even get people who don't work because they cannot afford to work, which is a huge problem. If we had higher salaries, if we had more workforce development, then it would let people enter the labor market, afford childcare, and address even unemployment. But so a few concrete ideas. One idea that I have that I've been talking about, highlighting in my campaign, is Fall River Fellows program. It's a program I want to do to stop the brain drain. And by that, this is not a term that I invented. This is a term that's very well known and used, which is the phenomenon that you described, Chip, where we're investing in kids' education, they graduate, and then they leave, and they don't come back, or maybe they are in a nearby suburb, or they just leave the area. We're actually tied with Phoenix and Glendale, Arizona for lowest in the country in terms of retention of 2- and 4-year degree holders. So kids who grow up here, go to school here, graduate, get their degrees, are not staying. And that's a fact, okay? To address that issue, what I want to do is start small, and I want to start building up our city with Fall River Fellows. So I'm going to encourage small businesses, local businesses, city agencies, nonprofits to look and see, can you take an intern? Can we help students who are in college, who are in apprenticeship programs, who are in training, get experience, see that there are jobs for them here. So many internships lead to jobs, and if they don't lead to a job, at least you're getting work experience. There's nothing wrong with being in school and working at Marshall's, but that probably is not the work experience you need to go towards a career, okay? So as mayor, I'll take the first Fall River Fellow in my office. I'm going to encourage all city departments to look and see, can you take an intern? And there's a real need for this. I know that many colleges have internship offices, but every year I get calls, and this has been throughout my entire 15-year career in nonprofit fundraising and management. I get calls from students saying, I need to do civic engagement volunteering. I need to do an internship. I have funding for an internship, and I need a nonprofit to work at. I even have a volunteer right now who is doing volunteer hours through DTA for food stamps, right? There's that requirement. Sometimes you have to volunteer. there's no coordination right now within the city. Schools do the best that they can to identify internship sites, but there's no city municipal coordination. So I want to provide that leadership. I want to outreach. I'm a member of the Chamber of Commerce. I want to outreach to those members and work with all these partners to centralize, to make a list similar to kind of AmeriCorps, right? My sister did AmeriCorps, where you apply to AmeriCorps and they place you at a site. I want to have our young people apply to Fall River Fellows. We place them at a site based on their interest. The group of students will have lunch once a week. They'll learn about opportunities in our city. They'll learn about the good things that are happening in Fall River to build up that cohort, to build up our middle class, to keep these people here in our city so that they live here, they work here, like I've chosen to do. They buy homes here, they have their family here. And I think that that is something that is a concrete program that we can test and we can launch and hopefully expand. So that's one specific idea I have, my Fall River Fellows program. As mayor, like I said, I'll take the first one in my office.
Well, that obviously sounds like a pretty good perspective, because we need community involvement. We need involvement with businesses. We always talk about Germany on this show because I spent some time in Germany. They have one of the best apprenticeship programs in the world.
I heard you talk about that, yeah.
And, yeah, all the time. And it is a very functional program. But that's the thing. We have an issue in Fall River where we can't keep the well-educated people, and we can't keep the tradesmen,
Right.
and the other people left are there,
workers, yeah.
unskilled workers who really are the last hired and first fired, and that's been a problem.
And it doesn't provide a living wage, and then you get into the issues with childcare, you get into transportation challenges, where at a certain point, unskilled labor is paid so little that it's not economically viable for someone if they don't have a car, or to buy a car, or to pay for childcare, all those very real factors that can stop someone from entering the workforce.
And, well, what do you, I mean, if you had to encapsulate what you feel are the most important things you're going to address as mayor, could you kind of give us an overview of that? What were when you walk into that office, besides the fact that nobody knows where any of the money is in the city, but that's my own personal opinion. But but the reality is the fact that nobody knows about anything about their money. What as the mayor would be your first 100 days in office? What would you really say? Look, these are the issues that we really have to hit the ground running, but these are the big things that we have to really face.
That's a great question, because obviously this term is very abbreviated, right? You're going to get in mid-March and you're pulling papers to run again in May. And then there's a preliminary election in September and a general election in November, and then your term is through the end of the year. So it's a very short timeline. So I'm being realistic. I'm not here to promise the world. I'm not here to promise things I can't achieve. That's because in my background, doing grant management, it's all about keeping promises. A grant is a lot like a political campaign. One, you make a promise, and that's your goal. Two, you do the work, so you keep your promise. And three, you prove it, which is the reporting. If you don't keep your promise, you lose the grant, and it's a really good way to be out of a job, hurting yourself, and also hurting the clients, hurting the community, hurting whoever you applied to serve with that grant money. So I've been very successful at making promises I can keep, and keeping them and proving it, and I'll use that same philosophy as your mayor. So my first 100 years, whew, I don't think I'll make it that long. Although they do say the person who's going to live to be like 150 is already alive, which I find frightening, because I did not want to live to be 150. I'm already in my mid-30s and I'm exhausted sometimes. My first 100 days, I'm going to start small by understanding the needs of the city, right? And so in the first couple weeks, I'm going to set up sit-downs, check-ins with every department head to understand, what are you working on? I've been a manager, I've supervised teams, I've built multi-million-dollar budgets, and I understand that you need to know what your people need before you hold them accountable. So I'm going to make sure I understand, what are they working on, what are your goals, what do you need from me to be successful in serving you? Because it is all about serving you, the taxpayer. I've been very public, stated on the talk radio, in the debate, that I'm going to use hiring committees, right? In my administration, I'm not going to give unqualified friends and campaign supporters or people that donate money to me, I'm not going to give them jobs they're not qualified for. I'm not going to give out stipends. I'm not going to give out $10,000 snow stipends for 3 days of work. I'm going to be fiscally conservative with your tax dollars because you pay for it and it's what you deserve. So for My administrative staff, I'll keep positions. I'm going to utilize a hiring committee. I'll be on it, sure, but there's going to be 4 or 5 people total, so I will not be the sole deciding person appointing unqualified campaign supporters. I'm sick and tired of it. I know that you're sick and tired of it, and it has to end, and it will end in my administration. So I'm going to make sure that everyone that gets a job in my administration, and that's not just jobs, people who are appointed to boards, for commissions, that they're qualified. I'm going to make all of their resumes public. Why? Because they're already public record. By law, they're public record, but right now under Jazel Correa, he doesn't make them public. You have to jump through hoops. You have to do requests. In my administration, I have nothing to hide. It's what you deserve, and I'm going to make those resumes public so that you can see that the people are qualified to do the work, whether it's education, experience, their background, whatever it may be, a combination of those factors. I'm really going to focus on housing. That's why I'm going to implement a mayor's special task force on housing to bring together all of the stakeholders around the table. I'm excited to see that some of my opponents are now caring about housing. I've been a champion of affordable housing for years because I think that we in the state, I don't think it's a fact. We have a housing crisis. We have people being pushed out of Boston that cannot afford $2,000 a month rent. I can't afford it, you can't afford it, few people can afford it. We're seeing people now being pushed out of Fall River. No one at all who is from here, born here, raised here, worked here, retired here, has their kids here and their grandparents here, they should not be pushed out of our city. I'm not talking about people trying to move into our city from outside. I'm talking about people who are here now. This is your city. This is where you should be able to live. You should be able to afford it and not be pushed out. I do not agree with Jazel Correa saying that seniors on fixed incomes are special interests, which he did at a housing meeting recently. I do not agree that it is shameful for low-income seniors to want to stay in their housing. I think that that is their human right. If you're in housing, you should stay in it. And this is private housing, by the way. We're not talking about public housing. We're talking about housing in general. I think that there is dignity in people who worked here, that worked in the mills, that retired here, and they should be allowed and afford to stay here in clean, safe, and sanitary housing. So housing is a huge issue. It's why I'm going to do a special task force as mayor. I'll hit the ground running with that. Because right now we have a lot of different people focused on different aspects of housing, but there's no coordination. We have Faust Fiore, who is a campaign supporter of Jazel Correa with no real background at all in housing, no background in law, not a paralegal, who is the minimum housing director. I ask why. I'm going to make sure the minimum housing director is someone who's qualified. I'm going to get rid of the special assistant position. I don't need a special assistant. What I need is for you to have access to me as your mayor. So I'm going to bring back the neighborhood coordinator. I think it's a critical role. I think our neighborhood associations do hard work, and they deserve to have that connection directly to the mayor's office. So we need a neighborhood coordinator that can bring your constituent concerns directly to my administration. So a lot of candidates are talking about being open, accessible, and transparent. I'm the only one, to my knowledge, that is promising and committing to you, the voters, to bring back that neighborhood coordinator. So I'm not just promising it, I have a plan to do so.
Well, that was good. And along those lines, because I've always been an advocate of neighborhood interactions, because if you don't listen to the people, and you brought up a point here, we've heard a lot of mayors and mayoral candidates say that I'm gonna interact with the public, and we see that they interact for about a New York minute, and then we never see them again. Will you? And I know you want a neighborhood coordinator, but would you be a mayor who attends neighborhood association meetings, has maybe pseudo town hall meetings where you can actually listen to the regular people of Fall River, not the quote-unquote special interest groups, not in Jazel Correa's definition, but listen to the real special interest group, the people who are working every day trying to eke out a living in this community. So.
Absolutely. I serve on the board of a neighborhood association. I'm not wearing that board member hat while I'm campaigning, to be very clear. I'm here as a candidate, independent of that. But I serve and volunteer as such because I believe in the value and the importance of neighborhood associations. That's how we build up community leadership. That's how we make sure we achieve my goal, which I think is also yours, of clean and safe neighborhoods, working in partnership together, working with the community. And as mayor, I absolutely will continue to attend neighborhood meetings like I'm doing now as a candidate. And one thing I want to point out, Chip, is a lot of candidates are saying, well, I talked to a nonprofit. I did outreach to substance use or homelessness or hunger, different topics, different challenges that so many voters like you or your family members or your neighbors are facing. I don't just do outreach, that's what I do. I've dedicated my career. After college, I had a job opportunity to go work for Lehman Brothers, which actually no longer exists, but it was on Wall Street. I could have gone to work for Wall Street and made a lot of money, but instead I chose to work for Main Street. I worked at a local domestic violence shelter helping women and children because that's an important topic for me. I experienced and witnessed domestic violence as a child, and so it's something very close and personal to my heart, and I wanted to give back because I've been blessed by so many privileges with my education and my experience. And I see running for mayor as an extension of that. So for 15 years, I've served our local community in nonprofit management and fundraising, and I'm gonna keep doing that as your mayor. So when I talk about I'm gonna outreach the community, I have a proven track record of doing just that.
Well, good. And I know we have to touch on, because we always do, we have to touch on public safety, and
Yes.
they've beaten that horse, because everybody, it's like mom and apple pie. Everybody's in favor of public safety, but we understand that, look, the apparatus has to be replaced, police cars, equipment has to be upgraded. But the reality I see, and I talk to people, they say, listen, the reality is we can't have a police officer on every corner. I mean, that's not the answer. We can't have 30,000 police officers in Fall River, to have one at every corner. And we heard a lot of debate about that. I believe one of the questions was, what do you think is the reason for the crime? And I think it's such a broad, because there are so many issues that create crime.
Which is why I said poverty, because I think all of these other issues kind of stem
and
from
opioid
poverty.
addiction, which causes poverty, and
cycles.
And they're just people who are career criminals. I mean, we have so many.
Yes.
It's a multifaceted issue. So with that fact, because everybody wants to look at a soundbite response to public safety.
There's no silver bullet.
And there is no, exactly, there is no silver bullet.
Yeah.
There's no magic bullet. There's no, it's about having a plan. And when you become mayor, do you have anything as far as something a little out of the box for a plan?
I think you're entirely right. It is about having a plan. I think it's also about coordination. And that's a big theme with me. Coordination around housing, coordination around public safety, coordination around opioids to protect our kids. So a few concrete plans that I have. One, I'm going to increase community policing, specifically walking beats, bicycle beats. Right now in my neighborhood in the Flint where I live, we are down one, right? There's a position for the walking beat and it's unfilled. So I think we need to be really strategic. I'm not just going to make a promise of 50 new police officers or an X amount, right? We need to be strategic about where we put our public safety. And we know that community policing works. It benefits the community, creates strong relationships. People feel that they can communicate and call public safety when there's an issue. And that's something that we need to focus on, because that helps prevent crime. It can help keep youth from joining gangs. We do have a gang problem in our city, and I understand that. I understand that so many people don't feel safe. One other issue I want to bring up while we're talking about, like you said, there's some people that just don't follow the law and there's no silver bullet. As mayor, one thing that I want to pledge to you and be very clear about is that I will follow the charter, okay? We passed the charter in 2017. You, the voters, passed the charter. Is the charter perfect? Absolutely not. Do I agree with it 100%? Absolutely not. I don't think anyone does. It's a big document. There's a lot in there. But the one thing that I pledge to you and I agree with is that it is the law of the land. It's supposed to be governing our city because you passed it. And right now, Jazel Correa is not following the charter. We have numerous instances where the charter is not being upheld. And so I'm pledging to you as mayor that that will be a priority of mine, because the mayor is the CEO and is the #1 person in our city, right? They're the CEO of the city, and you have to follow the rules that you set. No one is above the law. I will not be above the law as mayor. So I just want to make that really clear to the viewers, because I think it's something that is critical.
Well, very good. And I know we're running a little short, so I will kind of let you freelance what you want to do. But before you do, I just want to tell everybody out here, this is the last guest we're going to have. Make sure you vote on Tuesday, please. Erica, you are a new face on the political landscape. I think you've done a very good job of articulating your positions, and I think the people have seen you They have gotten to know you, and we encourage everybody to investigate all candidates, but you of all the candidates really don't have a lot of exposure in Fall River. And I personally, from a personal perspective, I want to thank you for having enough interest in the city of Fall River to get into the fray. Win, lose, or draw, you've shown you have a commitment to the community, and I appreciate that. So we've got about 4 minutes, I think. What? See. 4 minutes.
He's holding up 4 fingers.
You just tell up 4 fingers unless his thumb is missing. I don't know. But
let's hope it hasn't come to that.
No, but you can kind of go where you want to go and sum it up, and because we can't cover all the ground. I think we've succeeded with this format to give everybody a sense of each candidate by letting them be themselves. So give it heck.
Again, I just want to thank FRC Media, Spindle City Straight Talk, and Chip and CJ for this opportunity, as well as the tech people. Well, actually, I think CJ is the tech person running this, right? But I really appreciate this opportunity to get my name out, to get out my platform, because at the end of the day, it's not about me and my name. It's about the ideas and plans that I have for you, the voters of Fall River. And it is true that I'm not part of the political system. I'm not an established candidate. But I think that that's a strength. That means that I haven't been part of this broken system. I hear a lot of my opponents talk about their track record of public service, and I absolutely believe that public service is honorable. But I ask you to consider, why now? Why is the system being so heavily criticized by people who have been maintaining it for years or even for decades? And so I'm asking for your vote on March 12th, this Tuesday. There's 2 parts to the ballot. Vote yes on recall, and vote for me, Erica Scott-Pacheco. I promise that I will always listen to you. I will do my homework. I don't have all the answers. I'm not here to be a typical politician and to say I have all the answers and that with me, everything will magically improve. That's simply not the case. No one has all the answers, and there is a tough road ahead of us, but I can promise to listen, to hear your concerns, to be responsive, and to do my homework. For instance, one thing that I was thinking about is that Jazel Correa admitted in a city council meeting recently that he didn't even read a contract that he signed, right? He didn't know how much it would cost the city because he didn't read it and he hadn't done his homework. That's just one example of bad public service. As your mayor, I will always do my homework. If I don't know the answer, I'll be honest about it, but I'm certainly not going to sign a contract without knowing the cost to you, because at the end of the day, you paid for it. I'm going to be fiscally conservative with your tax dollars. I do not believe, as of right now, 35 years of life, I have not supported Proposition 2.5 overrides. That's not to say at some point I wouldn't, but generally I believe we need to follow the law, back to basics, right? That limit on taxes is there for a reason. I do not think it's smart or fiscally what you deserve to keep raising taxes to squirrel that money away into a stabilization account and then brag that we have $7 million extra. It's not extra, it's your money. You earned that money. The city took it from you and put it in a bank account, and now Jazel Correa is using it to ask for your vote again as if it's some magical victory. It's not what you deserve. It's not what you'll get with my administration. So again, my name is Erica Scott-Pacheco. I'm humbly asking for your vote Tuesday, March 12th. I'm asking you to give your vote to me so that we can fix this broken system together. I also want to say this message in a few other languages because I speak Spanish and Portuguese. So, me llamo Erica Scott-Pacheco. Estoy aquí para pedir humildemente que voten sí en la elección especial que se llama recall en inglés y que voten por mí, Erica Scott-Pacheco. Gracias. Estou a pedir a você humildemente que votem sim no dia 2 de março na eleição recall. Obrigada.
Well, that's pretty good. But just want to make one quick point before we go off. You mentioned the contract. What's really scary to me is that the financial team didn't know how much it cost either.
Right, so they were the ones at the city council meeting. You're right.
Also, Jazel said yesterday,
right?
But Jazel said at yesterday's debate that he participated in the negotiations, which I think is, well, I think that's stretching it a little bit. Maybe he walked by the room, but that's always been an issue. But thank you again, Erica. Let's everybody get out there and vote Tuesday, in every language. We want a big turnout. Let the people of Fall River speak, please. I don't care. It's supposed to be a halfway decent day, but regardless of that, be like the postman. you know, just get out there and vote, okay?
Thank you
very
very
much.